Joining us now, Gregg Schlesinger. Gregg's an attorney who specializes in construction defects. Thanks very much for joining us. First of all, I understand you know someone who's had 6 family members living in that building?
Yeah, I have, and I don't want to really go into that at this moment.
But you know people, obviously, who have relatives who are going through hell right now.
Sure, I'm born and raised here. I live 5 miles up the street from this tragic event.
Let's talk a little bit about your expertise. The report that was released, that was written in 2018 about the construction of this building, it said this: we completed our inspection and provided our report to the Condominium Association on October 8th, 2018, detailing our findings and recommendations. Goes on to say, among other things, our report detailed significant cracks and breaks in the concrete, which required repairs to ensure the safety of the residents and the public. 3 years later, they were saying there was a $3 million price tag or whatever to start doing this. Does it normally take 3 years to deal with a situation like this?
No, this is a situation that should have been dealt with immediately. Once you start talking about structural defects and safety, that requires immediate attention, and it wasn't done. That report indicates the columns that are made of concrete and steel were spalling out. We see a photograph of that structural column that holds up to that building is spalled out. It's lost its structural integrity, which sets up the potential for a collapse. What we didn't see was any additional exploring or destructive testing to find out just how bad that structural defect was.
So why? The question is why? Who is responsible? You get a report like this, which is written on October 8th, 2018, and then apparently nothing, not much of anything, is really done.
There's probably numerous reasons why. One, I find a bit of fault with that structural report. That engineer should have done additional exploration. You see something that's unsafe, how unsafe is it? You must do exploratory demolition pilot holes and look to see just how bad that rusted out steel that is supporting that concrete, that's supporting that building is. And that wasn't done. Wasn't done for 3 years. We know it was bad because the building collapsed.
So who bears the responsibility for that failure?
Hey, look, this in and of itself might not have been the total cause. There might be numerous contributing causes. We know that the soil had some issues. This building is settling. If the building is settling, it adds structural forces to members that may be already structurally impaired in defect. That will add a sort of flexing and a possible collapse that we have. And what should have been done is exploratory holes. When these folks saw this building, it was having problems and it was sinking. What we do here is we do pilot holes. We go into the ground. We get a geotechnical engineer to drill and core drill and see, hey, what's going on with this structure? Do we need to do any kind of reinforcing? Do we need to add additional pilings? Do we need to do pressure grout to stabilize this building so we don't have the kind of catastrophe that happened? In 3 years in this weather, unacceptable.
There are a lot of buildings just like this building, including one, a sister towers condominium building, right almost next door, that a lot of folks are worried about right now, built a year later.
Sure.
But by the same construction company and in the same area along the ocean. How will each of those folks be?
They should be concerned. If they are not, and if the individuals up and down this beach aren't getting threshold inspectors out, doing proper inspections, and not just observing spalling at columns, at beams, at slabs, and then going the extra distance and spending the money to do demolition, just like that column should have been peeled back, shored up, and structurally supported. How many columns were in that condition? How far back was that rusting? We know it was bad, really bad.
If you lived in that sister tower that's still up, they're recommending that people evacuate, but they don't necessarily have to. Would you stay there overnight?
No, I would not.
and you would tell your loved ones if they were living there to get
Absolutely.
out. What about other buildings in this area? As all of us who know this area well, and I know it, you know it,
Sure.
there are tons of buildings that were built in the 80s and the 70s
Right.
and the 90s that along this exact same surface.
Right, exactly. I've personally inspected some of these buildings and seen spalling and telltale signs of potential structural failure. Those are addressed. The people up and down this coast, because we are a relatively new area. As you know, 70s and 80s, we had an explosion in growth here in population and building. Those buildings are 40 years old, facing this ocean, which has a caustic salt air that eats away at the concrete and the steel. Anyone who has a car parked along the ocean knows in a year it's being rusted out. The brakes are rusted, so they should be concerned. Proper maintenance, daily maintenance, not this 40-year bare minimum. Every 5 years, get an engineer in there. Maintain your building. Once you see cracking going on, repair it so we don't get into this situation. If you have an issue with the ground, the soil, the substrata, get a geotechnical engineer in here, have them do core boring and drill down and see what's going on down there, see if something's shifted or changed.
I've been here for 2 days, and a lot of folks who live in this area in similar buildings are very nervous right now. They're staying, most of them, some of them are leaving, but they're very nervous. Gregg Schlesinger, thanks very much for joining us.
Sure.
Thanks for all your work as well.